everything happened really fast for me. Before I learned about missions, I recently dedicated my life to Christ. After I got a taste of God, I just wanted more. And through that, it's God just showing me his heart.
I do see leadership all over you and authority all over you. And this is really exciting, following your heart, the desires of your heart that God put in there.
I know God has this for me, so I'm going to just keep finding another way.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of when the door is locked, maybe look around, there might be a window open for you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first show of our youth podcast through Peninsula Life Church here in Gig Harbor. My name is Bo, and this is Lindsay.
Hey.
And we are super excited to be here today with our special guest.
Our special guest today is Abby Sokol. She has been a part of Peninsula Life Youth Group from the conception of the youth group.
Yes, ma'am.
And she is about to embark on a great adventure, a missions trip for a year to the country of Turkey. So we're here to talk to her about that. Abby, could you just give us kind of a rundown of the ministry that you're going to be partnering with, the mission of the year, and kind of the spiritual climate of what's going on in Turkey?
Okay, I would love to. So I actually have the privilege of knowing a few families that live in Turkey.
Cool.
And so through them, I get to come to Turkey. I'm enrolled in a class there, and I'll be just preaching the gospel every single day. I have a little daily life plan, if you want to call it. I'll be going to school, hopefully meeting a ton of new people, and then just talking to people all day, sharing testimonies that, just things God has done in my life, sharing the gospel to them, because so many people don't know the gospel. They don't know who Jesus is, and I get to share that with them. And so hopefully through that, just making disciples and discipling people through life, really doing life with them, walking through hardships with them, trying to, break down lies that are so heavily rooted with the truth. So that's what I'll be doing. And Turkey, it's a very interesting country because it's very religious. It's 99% Muslim.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
But it's also very secular at the same time. The young people, I don't know. I think it's just the difference between the older generation and the younger generation.
Sure.
Because the younger generation still gets caught up in things that here in America young people would, drinking, smoking, this kind of stuff. So it's a very interesting mix, I would say.
And how do you know families in Turkey already?
So I went to Turkey this summer, actually.
Okay. And how long were you there that time?
I was there for 2 weeks.
Gotcha. And now you're going for a year.
Now I'm going for a year.
Okay. So that kind of leads me into wanting to know, was that 2-week trip, was that your first mission experience? Or did you have something even before that?
So before I went to Turkey, the summer before, I went to Iraq.
Oh, wow.
And this was my very first mission trip. It was my first time out of the country, too. And
totally by yourself?
Yeah, totally
At least
by
without
myself.
your family and
yeah,
friends,
without
right?
my family. I had a team with me, but I was by myself.
And when you did that, I'm assuming it had quite the impact because you're going back. What was your experience with that? How do you remember it changing? Obviously, you're excited to go there, or else you wouldn't have gone. But how did it impact you from taking off for Iraq versus coming home from that trip?
So I think everything happened really fast for me. Before I learned about missions, I recently dedicated my life to Christ. And from there, everything took off so fast because after I got a taste of God, I just wanted more and more and more. And through that, it's God just showing me his heart. And he showed me his heart for the nations, for people that don't know him. And sorry, what's the question?
No, just basically what do you remember it impact? How do you remember it impacting you?
Okay.
Maybe something you didn't expect.
So this first trip, to Iraq, I think there was one verse that like came alive to me. And it's the verse that says the harvest is plentiful and the laborers are few.
Yeah.
And like we hear this verse and we might be like, oh yeah, that's true. But once you see it with your own eyes, it hits differently. Because when I went to Iraq, every person that I would speak to, they didn't know the gospel. They didn't know who Jesus was. And even looking around to just people around me, I'm like, who's sharing with them? Because there's a verse in Romans that says, like, how will they believe in whom they have not heard?
Right.
And how will they hear without someone preaching to them? And how will someone preach without being sent? So I think that verse just really came alive to me. And I learned a lot about how God uses people.
Sure.
Because I thought about myself and going to a country and I'm like bringing something so precious to them. It's like a weight that I had. I'm like, God, can I do this? Am I equipped to do this? Am I strong enough to do this? Am I wise enough to do this? You know,
because you're young at this point, right? Like 16, 17.
I was 17. I think I just turned 18 actually.
Okay.
But I wasn't even reading my Bible that much. So I even questioned how much of the word that I knew. But God has a beautiful way of using our weaknesses to glorify him. It says that his strength is made perfect in our weakness.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw when I went to Iraq. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know the language for the first day.
Yeah.
I had no idea where I was going. I just went to a new city every day and I said, God, like you have to bring people to me because I don't know anybody. And he did.
That's great.
And I was never lost. I was never lacking even things to say. I was never lacking things to say. So
that's powerful.
Yeah. It was
you talked a little bit about the feeling a weight. Can you talk a little bit more about how that just you knew that that's what you were called to be doing?
I mean, I think it was also simple to me because I believe that it's by God's grace that I was able to even have knowledge, first of all, about like the nations that don't know him. And it was almost like second nature to me. It was just like the next thing that you do. God, you blessed me. You gave me life. Like I have all the answers. God, he's the answer to every single problem that I have. And the answer to every problem in this world. And I have this. And I know people that don't have this. So like it was just second nature to me. Like, of course I must go. And especially looking at, there's so many people that don't go. I'm like, okay, so I know I can go. So I have to go, you know?
Yeah.
And
if
you
that makes sense.
grew up in church, right? Like
I did.
when you rededicated your life to Christ, that wasn't necessarily, that was a brand new moment, but it wasn't like you were getting new information.
Yeah.
Was there something here before you left that just kind of was like that moment where you knew, oh, this is what I need to do before the missions, just to make that decision to rededicate yourself?
So I'd say my walk as a Christian was very selfish before. Because I didn't really know God. It was just the relationship that I would hear about that my parents had or the pastor had or Sunday school teachers had. And when I kind of decided to get serious, you begin to know God. You begin to know who God truly is, and your heart starts becoming like God's heart. Like he transforms us. And so I started off as a selfish person, only thinking about myself. And turn like wanting to love as God loves. And so I'd look at examples like, how does God love? He loves unconditionally. He loves sacrificially. He gives everything. And so I was like, I need to give everything as well. And I just decided to serve everywhere I could in church. And then I saw another opportunity to serve was in the nations. And yeah.
That's really great that you're talking about service, because we talk about that with our leaders in the youth group. Just leadership is servanthood. It's not a place of like, look at me, and like a place of power, and it's actually service. So I do see leadership all over you and authority all over you. And this is really exciting that someone your age is this excited about going and doing this, following your heart, the desires of your heart that God put in there.
Mm.
So I just want to encourage you with that. Like, I just see that all over you, and we're really excited that you're doing this. We're really hoping that this your example is an inspiration to other young people. So I guess the next question really would be, we already talked to you about your heart, but what about this particular missions trip? Like, how did this one particularly come into your path? And I did want to ask another question about the missions organization that you're going with. But first, how did you why Turkey?
So originally it wasn't supposed to be Turkey, actually. I wanted to go back to Iraq.
Oh, okay.
But there were a few things going on with the organization I was previously with. And there was only one family in Iraq, and there was no other young people. And it would be really hard for me to serve. I talked to the family that was there, and they didn't recommend it. So I was a little bit disappointed because I had gone for 2 weeks to Iraq one summer, and then the next summer I went for 2 weeks to Turkey. But I saw that 2 weeks was not enough time.
Yeah.
I wanted to spend more time, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for a year. And God convicted me, like, it has to be this year. I don't know why. I was just thinking, because I have school, I'm still in college.
Yeah.
Sure.
I still have my degree to finish. But I just really felt like I was like, just go this summer. And so I gave my yes. And I wanted to keep that. But I saw that I couldn't go to Iraq. So I was like, where do I go? So I'm just praying. And by God's grace, I know other long-term families in other countries as well. So I just reached out to them and tried to see if there are any other young people that also want to go out, because you need a team to go out.
Right.
It's really hard to go by yourself. And so it's good to go with a team. And I reached out to one of the families, and they said there are also some young people that really want to go to Turkey.
There we go.
And I just prayed. And that's actually why I went to Turkey for 2 weeks, because I wanted to go and see. I wanted to receive heart, because I don't want to serve people if I don't have heart for them.
Yeah.
It would be really hard. I don't want to be forced, you know? And so that's how Turkey came about. And honestly, I know a lot of people that have gone to Turkey. So I had a bit of a stigma before. I thought that everybody just goes to Turkey, because I would see other nations. I'm like, why is nobody going here? Why is everybody going to Turkey?
Yeah.
But God showed me that He literally has the door wide open over this nation right now.
Wow.
That's why it's so easy for people to go there. That's why there's so many people going. And I said, okay, God, if this door is open, I don't know how long it will be open.
Sure.
So let me go while the door is open.
Yeah.
Funny
Yeah.
you say that, because as I'm listening to you, what I love about what you just said is I had this prompting from God, and you didn't wait on it. You just let your yes be yes,
Yeah.
right? And you just went for it. And I think so many times, especially talking with the younger people, a roadblock happens, and because your experience in life is maybe limited, or you've never been on, aside from those 2 weeks, this is all new. And to have that feeling of like, okay, here's opposition, but I know God has this for me, so I'm going to just keep finding another way. And it reminds me of like, when the door is locked, maybe look around, there might be a window open for you, right? And I think that alone would get so many more people farther in what they're trying to do, especially with God, if they just didn't give up at those hard moments, right? Like, it's an opportunity to strengthen you and to make you stronger, and to work into what God has, instead of just sit there and say, okay, give me. You went out and got it. And I just think that's so cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, it's even just trusting in God. There's a verse that says His ways are not our ways, and His thoughts are not our thoughts.
Isaiah's a good guy.
Yeah, I know. But it's so hard when things don't go your way.
Yeah.
But it's just trusting that God does have something better for you.
Yeah.
And the way that He will orchestrate it, it'll be in a way that will blow your mind.
Yeah.
It's so much better than you could think or imagine.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, like Lindsay said, your organization now, tell us more about, we know what you're doing with them, but just tell us about who they are and what they do, and If somebody wanted to get involved, what steps would they take with somebody like this?
Okay, so the organization I'm going out with now actually just started because my old organization kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
And so it was just the remnants came together because they still wanted to have an outlet to send people. That was their main goal. And so now I'm with an organization called MMI. It's Maranatha Missions International.
Okay.
And there are families all over the globe, in the Middle East, in Africa, in Brazil, in America. And I think they're still trying to get organized, get situated. It's only been a few months, honestly.
Wow.
And you're already going to Turkey.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Imagine what a couple more years can do with this
I
thing with some more
know.
people.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You mentioned going to school. What are you going to be doing over there? Are you going to be learning the language, the culture?
So I'm enrolled in a language class there.
Okay.
Just so that I can be fluent and communicate better.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think universities, like schools, are one of the best places to meet people, to meet young people, to make connections.
Especially with the way you said their culture is kind of,
Yeah.
falling to the things of the world, so to speak, and a lot of temptation and choices that they have to be making. And setting an example for that, I think sounds pretty exciting in terms of opportunity.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Well, we are super proud of you. We are fully backing you in prayer and support. And we can't wait to hear more.
Yes, I'm excited to share with you guys. I know God's always doing something. So, yeah.
And you come back when?
I come back a year from around today, like this month. So
You're going to have
January 2026.
Easter, Christmas, all those things over there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Honestly, I think those holidays are even a good way to like share the gospel. Because you think about Easter, it's the resurrection of Christ.
Yeah.
Christmas, the birth of Christ. So being able to share that, I think will be a blessing.
That's
Yeah,
so
that's
great.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, like Lindsay said, my wildest dreams of what's going to happen and the excitement I have, I'm sure is going to be not even close to what you actually get to experience. And to bring that back here to impact people, the ripple effect that you throwing one stone, stepping into obedience, I cannot wait to see what that does here through our church and for God's kingdom.
Yeah.
Yes. Amen.
That's great. We want to thank you, Abby, for coming and letting us interview you and talk to you about just your mission and your future. We are excited that we're actually going to be interviewing you again. So stay tuned for the next episode.